All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. How are you doing today? Hope you all are doing well. Let me know where you're joining from, and of course, I'm using a new device. Kindly let me know if you can hear me. Please, I need your voice to be down, please. All right, so we're actually going to be discussing something that is very, very important, and please let me know where you're joining me from. It is very important that we have this conversation. I want to say a very big thank you to everybody that was part of my live session um, last week, Sunday. And I want us to have another important conversation. So these are some of the things that we need to talk. So please, in case you're coming across um, this, please hand me the laptop charger. In case you're coming across this particular um, studio or this particular YouTube channel for the first time, do well to subscribe. This is Property Matters live session, and we're going to be having important conversations like this so that we can learn, unlearn, and of course, let's share our opinion. And I've had several conversations with some notable real estate investors. More importantly, people in diaspora, and there are some important conversations that we need to have so that we can, you know, give ourselves um, well to date or put information on what is going on in the country. And we all are aware of the security challenges, okay, that the nation Nigeria is facing. Initially, when the entire security challenges started, it started from the north, and people were actually not kind of concerned because they said, okay, security is a northern thing, it's a northern challenge. And gradually, we saw, the waves of these things happening across different states. We know, of course, presently right now, there's been some series of kidnappings, and a lot of people have actually been concerned. The reason why we are having this conversation basically is for us to have some major clarifications on the situations, and so that we can understand the pattern of all these operations and we can know what is going on. There was actually a bomb scare in some part of Mushin area of Lagos earlier this morning. Was it? It was around this morning and yesterday and this morning. And first of all, I would say basically kudos to the security operatives. They actually did their job and they did that fantastically well. They were up to the task. And at this point, I would say basically that Lagos State is ready for whatsoever the things that this set of people. Please, can you just a fan? To whosoever these people might be throwing at us. I've had move it back a little bit. So okay, it's okay. So we've had conversations like this that at this point in time you will be having conversations like insecurity in the 21st century. Um, I am going to be talking. I'm going to be doing an expose very soon, and as a historian and a diplomat, I would probably give an insight to why Nigeria is targeted. You should understand why Nigeria is targeted. I did a video when I was talking about insecurity few weeks, and I was explaining some key things, some key components people need to understand. And because of the fact that I really don't want to deviate from what I've been doing in time past, talking about important, investment opportunities as a realtor and a real estate developer, a real estate practitioner with over several years. But it is very also important that when we have scenarios and unfortunate circumstances like this, it is very, very essential that we do a deep dive, a deep expose to what could be the historical problem. And if you have been following me, basically, you know that I've been vocal over this situation. And I've said it several times. I've said it several times that with the increasing rate of these activities, these unfortunate activities, I said and I'm going to repeat again that because of the fact that Lagos is actually the epicenter of real estate, Lagos State is the epicenter of commerce, Lagos State is the epicenter of entertainment. Lagos State is obviously is the economic life breath, okay, of the nation. And if you have been following some of the important conversations that we've been having in time past, you would also agree, based on what we have said, what we have seen in time past, that Lagos has a lot of things. And when we have situations like this, it should not call for panic. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. It should not come to panic. If the almighty United States of America in the September 11 could be affected by terror attacks, then we should know basically that any nation could be in danger of terror attack. Although a lot of people have come with diverse opinion saying that some people are actually responsible for this terror attack. And of course, there have been a lot of allegations. Whenever we have unfortunate circumstances like this, people tend to lend their voices and give their different opinions to some of these things. And it is just quite unfortunate that in the 21st century, we, instead of having more intellectual conversations and deep dive discussions of how we can compete as a nation, we are bewildered with conversations of terror attack. It's quite unfortunate, but however, we need to find a way to respond adequately to this. And one of the things I said basically is that regardless of some of these things that have been happening, I would not want us to draw an immediate conclusions on these circumstances, basically, because the Lagos state government is adequately aware that if neighboring states like Oyo State, Kwara, and other parts, Ekiti, Ondo, areas of terror attack, Lagos State is very, very aware. And I would also say, basically, I think I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I want to quickly seize this opportunity to praise the Lagos State governor, who has actually planned and prepared for situations like this. And at this time, as a Lagosian, I think what we should do basically is that this is actually the most important time of our history that we should work, adequately with every security, apparatus, work with the security, the security operatives that we have, and try as much as we can, to relate any informations that we deem could be very, very pivotal in tackling and resolving casualties that could come as a result of terrorist attack. So I'm going to say this again. I've said it in some of my videos, and I'm going to say it again. Please, if you are a Nigerian in Lagos, or you are an investor in Lagos, you can be rest assured. You can be rest assured that the security operatives here are going to respond accordingly to the situation, and I can assure you that what we have in neighboring states will not become a repetitive occurrence that we have in other states. So we need to be very, very calm. We need to be very, very, so we should not create unnecessary tension concerning this. And very quickly, and I'm also going to quickly explain some of the things that we need to know going forward, some useful real estate investment tips, and why we need to focus essentially on some basic things that we need to do. So one of the things I was saying basically is that, number one, this is the best time that we should work hand in hand with every security operatives that we have here. First of all, I want to appreciate the Lagos State Police Command and the Lagos State Anti-Bomb Squad for that swift response to the situation. I would say that for the first time in a long while, I am very, very, very proud of our security operative and we pray that God will continually, bless them. For ibeju-lekki, that we had at the moment, um, is the only thing basically is that we've not been allowed, to do recorded, videos. But there've been several patrols. We've had security outfits stationed in different places, and I can tell you basically that what we are seeing in other states, what we are seeing in other states will not happen in Lagos. So this is why we need to be very, very calm, and we should not make hasty decisions because of circumstances like this. This is actually not the best time to panic. Someone actually reached out to me. Ivy, can I have my phone, please? Someone actually reached out to me very recently, and we've been having conversations, important, conversations, like what is happening in Lagos, what we need to do as NP. The amazing thing, or should I say the unfortunate thing, basically, is that I really don't understand why some people are wishing that something evil should happen. In fact, these are some of the things that, some of the unfortunate, things I've heard. And I was like, how can somebody who is sane, somebody who should have human empathy towards his fellow citizens, should be expecting that, someone said they never reached Lagos. And I was like, for crying out loud, we should not. This is where we need to, where togetherness is very, very important in situations like this. This is where togetherness is very, very important. This is where we need to stand up, unite, and fight these people. These guys are alien, and whatsoever agenda that they seem to be pursuing, it will definitely, definitely not happen. And so kudos to the security authorities, and please do not panic. Do not panic. The thing is that the reason why they call them terrorists is because there's one important tools that criminal elements use in perpetuating their evil practices. The first thing basically is to subdue people to, perpetual fears and anxiety. And in a situation whereby people seem to be overwhelmed, with fears, they will use that opportunity to unleash, their mayhem. But Lagos State is not like every other state. So I want every real estate investors, both existing and and other intending, both existing and intending real estate, to be rest assured basically is that the security operative are there. Now, I'm just going to quickly share some important steps that the Lagos State government have done. Though, when we are online like this, it is very important that we have to be as discreet as possible, so that we don't, relate important informations that, most of these people can use, to strategize their next evil attack and some other things like that. But what I've seen basically is that the Lagos government have been intentional. They've been consistent security patrols. More importantly, in the border towns, I gave instances of what happened in Muwe, what happened. But you see, um, we have been infiltrated. So we need to admit, okay, that is it the fault of the government or the fault of the security operatives? Well, basically, these are just some of the things. However, despite the infiltration in the southwest, you would see the intentionality of the government to ensure that the security of lives and properties of people are protected. And kudos to the Lagos State government, to the governor, His Excellency Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Thank you very much for for your swift response. Thank you very much to the police force. And please, we don't need to panic. We don't need to panic. So what I said basically, that if you notice any unusual movement or any other thing, this is actually the best time for you, to contact every necessary security apparatus. This is where we need to relate anything. So the government basically they've been mass exodus of the northerners in some areas of Lagos. More importantly, those ones that does not have any legitimate business they seem to be doing. So we've had mass exodus. The Lagos State Environmental Control, that's the last Lagos State Environmental Control, the Lagos State Task Force have been doing this for the past weeks, and they've also tried as much as they can to break any um, shanties, all those ghettos where most of these guys could, hide to perpetrate this. So they've been massive destructions of illegal structures across, strategic locations in the country. So basically, I say, Lagos basically right now is a safe haven. Lagos is safe, and I believe basically that the security will be tightened. Now, a lot of people. So someone asked me a question when I had this conversation, I think 2 weeks ago, and the question basically was that, what if they start going from houses to houses, kidnapping people? Now, in as much as fact that that has been the obvious realities is on part of the nation, you would understand that despite the fact that situations like this have been happening, the first and important thing we need to understand is that these people cannot embark on massive kidnappings because of the fact that, number one, Lagos State does not have bushes like every other state. Number two, Lagos State is highly urbanized with security architecture, and more importantly, if they are to attack Lagos, we want to believe, intelligent forces have actually revealed to us that the only thing we should just do is that when we are in large gatherings, we need to intensify securities. Okay, so whenever we're having large gatherings like musical concerts, night vigils, birthday parties, and marketplaces, that we should intensify security, because you see, Lagos has some strategic locations that it will make it extremely difficult, okay, for crime like kidnapping of school children. That will be very difficult to perpetrate. In fact, and that's why they've been massive security turnout. So the only strategy that we think, okay, that these guys may want to adopt if they are to attack Lagos will be the issue of suicide bombing. So, and the Lagos State anti-bomb squad are definitely up to the task, and this is why we need to work. This is where we need. This is where our unity right now should be non-negotiable. This is where we need to show up and tell let these guys know that this is our country, and we are not going to let it go for any other person. So these are just some of the things. So, dear real estate investor, there's actually nothing to be scared about. So I'm happy we're having this important conversation. So that is actually the first part of our conversation. Okay. And I should also mention or include this to my conversation that I am not saying this basically simply because I don't we're not scared. No, we're not. Basically, like I said, what terrorists does is to inflict fears, and the moment you can succumb to fears like that, they take massive advantage of some of these things. So these are one of the things we need to talk about. So what should we now do in situations like this? We should work hand in hand with the security operatives, and so let me respond to a question that was raised. Why Lagos will not succumb to terrorism? Number one, the first thing you need to know is that a lot of things is at stake in Lagos. The refinery is here, the free trade zone is here, Eco Atlantic is here, major headquarters of banks, industries, commercial activities, they're all here. And if a nation or a state like Lagos should fall, God forbid, though most times whenever I am online, I try as much as I can not to appear or sound religious. But you need to understand basically that even if the security apparatus does not seem to respond, you please, I want you to be very, very mindful of my diction here. I did not say when, I said if. And that if is a possibility that it will not even happen. But however, do you think that Chief Aliko Dangote, that has a refinery of over 10 million US dollars, will allow terrorists to spoil his business for him? Or do you think that the MD CEOs of First Bank, please help me with this bank, these top banks, will allow their investments to be override by terrorists? Or do you think that the almighty Eco Atlantic City, which is one of the safest residential zones, will allow them to be terrorized by insurgents? You need to understand basically that there are private individuals who could fund security apparatus to protect their investments. And failure to do that, investment worth billions of dollars. Now, I'm not going to give this expression in Naira. We need to understand that there's a lot that is at stake. And that is why I am 100% certain that if there should be an attack, there will be an adequate response. And that is why I said at the commencement of this video that you necessarily do not need to panic. That's number one. Then number two, a lot of investments are coming to Lagos, and that's why I'm going to go into the next segment of this conversation. The Chinese. I've done several videos. If I'm talking about Chinese activities in Nigeria, now it's for the positive. Please, I honestly don't want to be misquoted. I am not an anti-Chinese citizen. I am an advocate of I'm an advocate of development. I'm an advocate of having expatriates. I'm an advocate of massive nation building and development. So if we have the Chinese, if we have the Indians, if we have this is good for the economy of Lagos and the economy of the nation at large. So if we have large infiltrations of these people coming to Lagos, it's good thing. So I need to say basically that having these guys around is a good thing. However, we need to understand basically that right from the lens of history, we've had Chinese expansionist territories, not only in Africa, but in top economies across the world. Now, a lot of people have said basically that one of the reasons why these people are taking colonies or territories is because of the fact that they want to build, an economy that is viable, that could make them a superpower. And if you have been looking at international politics, you will see that from the lens of history, nations have always come with this intention of becoming a superpower so that they can confront or contend with dominance of places like the United States of America, Russia, France, and superpower. Now, I know if you are not a student of history and international, you may not have an adequate understanding of why Chinese expansionist activities. It is a good thing. It is a good thing, at least for a nation that is described as a third world. It is a good thing. However, why are they still here despite the fact that there's insecurity? Why are they still here despite the fact that Nigeria is tagged as one of the most unsafest places because of circumstances? Now, basically, I would say that if these people are still coming, now, I actually made a short video that I will be posting. So if you're coming across this channel for the first time, I usually have important conversations like this, intellectual conversations like this, so that we all can have an adequate, world of what is going on and what we should learn from circumstances like this. So why are they still here? Now, if you go to Lekki Phase 1, if you have been to Ikoyi, if you have been to Banana Island, if you have been to Iko Atlantic, in fact, in some places of ibeju-lekki, these guys are here. So the question basically is, why are they here? Now, the thing we need to understand basically is that anywhere there is money, you will find the Chinese. Anywhere there is resources, you will find the Chinese. Anywhere there is endless opportunity that can be used for nation buildings, these guys are always there. And sometimes, if I'd had, if I'm having intellectual or important or investment conversations with some of my investors, and I tell them, why don't you think we should have intellectual conversations like this? We don't have lights 24/7. They are here. We complain of bad roads. They are here. If you have been towards the ibeju-lekki right now, the ibeju-lekki axis right now is one of the most secured location right now. In fact, these guys are in Beechwood, they are in Beechwood Estate, they are in Mayfair Garden, they are in Abijo GRA. In fact, there's a particular quarter in Abijo GRA that is a Chinese quarters. Not just them, the Russians are here, the Indians are here, they are numerous. In fact, there are times that we talk, we interact. Now, these guys are controlling their major stakeholders in the Dangote refinery. If you have been following my channel very quickly, I said that the free trade zone, the Lekki free trade zone that everybody have been talking about, is a what? Is a direct partnership with the Chinese government. They are in a refinery, they are in our deep support, they are in a major investment. And why exactly are they here? Now, if you have been, there was a particular time, okay, that a friend of mine wanted to set up a large acres of cocoa. So we just told ourselves that, okay, fine, we don't need to, drive miles, okay? We can, explore locations like the Beggar, the Muwe, the Ofada, and other places. And one thing I discovered basically is that all the lands there has been sold. In fact, I raised people's attention to the fact that if you have been to the area of Iberekodo, if you have been to Foluise, if you have been to Arapagi, if you have been to other places of ibeju-lekki, most of these lands are places whereby government wants to build tech industries, and who will be the coordinators? They are the Chinese. Now, why are we not giving adequate opportunities to our Nigerians? That obviously is a conversation for another day. But the point basically is that these people are indirectly opening colonies. We drove from Bega, from Arepo, then we drove down to Mowe, we drove down to Ofada, all the way to the Ogun State axis. And all the lands facing the express and strategic locations have been bought. And who are the buyers? Have you asked yourself who are the buyers? See, if you have followed the 1884, sorry, I have to go back to the lens of history so that I can establish a point so that we can wake up and see and have a total understanding of what is going on. In 1884, 1885, after the Berlin West African Conference in Germany, there was what we call the scrambling and partitioning of Africa. For some of the people who may not understand this, my fellow historians will attest to the fact that this was where Africans were partitioned among the European nations. And these people took colonies and territories to themselves. And today, till today, indirectly or directly, these colonies are still feeding the industrialized nations across the world. And a lot of people have asked questions that why is Africa not industrialized? Why do you still have to, harvest our cocoa and still, travel it over, export it for processing? Why do we still have, a palm oil? How many palm oil processing factories do we have? How many, these are conversations that we cannot be talking today, but these are just part of, the things. But the most important thing, basically, all the lands from Arepo, Bega, down to Ogun State, and even to some strategic locations have been bought. The shocking thing, basically, is that these guys bought these lands for peanuts to plant and grow crops that will be shipped to their country, processed, and sold back to us in high price. And this is why we need to wake up. Even if you are not based in the country, even if you don't have an intention of coming back to the country, God forbid, may you not come to the point and find out that your father's house is now being owned by Chinese. Because you see, people are not waking up to the fact that these guys have vision, and they are gradually using Africa, not just Nigeria, as their primary sources of what raw materials. And this is why we need to have this important conversation. So I am not saying you should go toe to toe with the Chinese. I'm not saying we should be hostile to the Chinese. No, at the commencement of this video, I said having these guys around is a good thing. It's a clear indicator that Africa is blessed. Forget all this sentimental or this, all this subjective narrative that Africa is a dark continent, that nothing good can come to the country. If nothing good can come to the country, why are they still here? That's the question that a lot of people have not answered. So what I'm trying to say basically is that if they are here, invest back home. Regardless of whether there's security challenges or there's no security challenges. Now, I'm not saying you should invest anyhow, please. I really need to, make some important clarifications so that we can understand where this conversation is pointed to. I am not saying that you should just go anywhere and buy properties or do something. No, I'm saying that identify the strategic locations and invest. Even if you don't have the intention of doing anything, own it in large quantity, so that as they are producing, we are also producing. We are creating what we call a market economy, whereby there are diverse options of material. So if this guy wants to sell for this price, I have my own price. So when we have equal competition in the market and there's constant cash flow, our investment should not be going over there without we getting something significant. And this is why that we need to start investing back home. Not for rivalry, not for conflict, no. Not for hostility, but for the fact that if they take over your land, what would you say you were doing when you have the opportunity to? Now, if you must now invest back home, there are some important things you need to know. You need to identify the areas that are prone to terrorist attack. You need to understand locations that can affect movement and mobility of the resources that are in your property. And that is why it is very important that you have experienced professionals like us. We exist in this capacity to help you understand where the opportunities are and where the dangers lies. So if we can now do a critical evaluations of the opportunities and the risk, you will now be in a position where you can make an intensive and precise and intelligent investment decisions. And that is what we do here. So if you now, a lot of people have come to the conclusion, basically, that there's insecurity in Nigeria. Until the situation is solved, I'm not investing. You are definitely shooting yourself in the right foot. Because you see, if the situation is finally resolved, something you are supposed to get at a very, very discounted price, you are paying double of what it is. Now, let us also know basically that there are some political ideologies or the political sentiment to this insecurity. So we need to have an accurate understanding that if you understand some of the the purpose of this insecurity, then you know basically that this thing cannot trigger for long. It cannot trigger for long. Now, I obviously don't want to go into details because I have a video that adequately addresses this. Now, let us all quickly have this because I don't want this conversation to be extremely long, but I want it to be very, very intellectual, something that at your own leisure time you can, research further and confirm, the authenticity of some of this information that I'm sharing here, so that you can have, an accurate understanding of what is going on. So, what exactly do we need to do? So, there are areas that are good for investment, and there are areas that you should avoid. Now, because of the fact that today's video is not dedicated, so there will be subsequent videos. So if you are on my live stream today and you have not subscribed to this channel, then you are not, you won't get some of this information because I have actually dedicated my time, my resources, my team have been working extremely hard, to gather valuable information that will guide you. So it is not for you to run away, it's for you to know where to position. Because you see, for every situation, whether fortunate, unfortunate, whether happy or sad, thing that happened in Nigeria, it is an investment opportunity for others. So that is why you need to understand that if you view a situation from a particular point of view, or you choose to be subjective in your evaluation of those circumstances, you will miss the endless opportunity. Do you know that ever since this insecurity have been happening in Southwest, a lot of people have been coming in their droves to Lagos, and this has significantly affected house rents. It has really, in fact, places that ordinarily you should pay 1 million for, 1.5 million, 2.5 million. Landlord will ask you, to pay 5 million, 6 million, because they know that if you cannot, there's loads of people out there who want that apartment. And that is why in a situations like this, in a situation whereby government is struggling to provide affordable housing, this is where the opportunity comes for you as an investor. So while other people are seen insecurity as a means to an end or as a way of escape, you are seeing insecurity from the investment point of view, that where should I position that my property? See, I actually don't want to be disclosing some of the important topics, that I intend, to upload in some of my subsequent videos. And I'll just take a brief pause because I know a lot of people have questions. You see, questions have already started coming because I know you guys have a lot of questions to ask. And I honestly don't want this video to be very, very long. I want to thank everybody that is on this live stream. I really, really appreciate. Okay, so I have some questions here. So what I'm going to do basically is that I'm just going to take a brief pause while I respond to some of these questions, and in subsequent videos, basically, I'll try as much as I can, to show you some safe, secured areas where investment actually makes sense. I'll be doing that, but because of our timing, I would not want us to make this video to be necessarily long. By the special grace of God, tomorrow we're also going to be doing this, okay? And I'll be we're also working on a live session whereby we'll be having a joint live session with a professional, okay, that will be talking about different area of inspection. So while other people are seeing insecurity as an opportunity, as a necessity to stay away, see it as because you see, for every problem that happens in Nigeria is a money making opportunity. Now, there was a particular project I went to view today, though I was supposed to have been there earlier before, and I just had to make out time. So when I went there, I discovered basically that project, as at 2022, we were selling 2-bedroom apartment for 25 million. And even as at that 25 million, a lot of people were complaining. And I told them basically that, see, this is not how to handle real estate. Few people kidding. In fact, as at 2024, we sold a 4-bedroom terrace duplex for 40 million. A 4-bedroom terrace that has car park, 4-bedroom It has, the visitors room downstairs and the other three room downstairs. President, as I'm talking to you right now, that same 4 bedroom is being sold for 100 million. And for that 100 million, that is actually the cheapest that you see in those axes. Because you will not say because of insecurity, people should not have houses. You don't say because there's insecurity, people should not eat. You should not say because there's insecurity, people should not go about their normal activities, their legitimate activities. Okay. However, the situation will not even be as extreme as we have. It will be adequately controlled because Lagos is the commercial zone, the security operative right there. People have their own personal security operative. So these guys will not have a safe haven here like they have in other places. So and that is why we know that some of the strategies might be probably suicide bombings, which obviously will be adequately addressed. However, if you say the situation right now, the available real estate right now has become not just expensive, but ridiculously expensive. And you know where the opportunity is? Now, a lot of people have said something to me several times. Thank you for joining, Mr. Shion. Thank you very much. Please, I'm already having questions. Mrs. G, okay, welcome, ma. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining. So, a lot of people have asked me basically that. You see, you know where the opportunity is in Lagos is that there is no regulations to prices. A lot of people have asked. There was this video I saw recently that a woman was screaming. In fact, I have that video. I'll be dropping a video talking about people's present experience, okay, of price hike, rent basically right now. And this woman was talking extensively on Instagram, complaining. There are a lot of people who are taking to social media complaining, and the purpose of this complaint basically is to draw the attention of government so that the government can give a matching order to landlords to reduce their rent. That is not going to happen, and this is where the opportunity lies for you. Housing deficit is 28 million. Population is over 23 million. An academic institution, okay, in Lagos has, okay, someone was asking me that why are people paying 3 million for a studio flat in Yaba? Why are people paying? A studio flat is like room self, an apartment whereby the kitchen, the sitting room, everything, they're in the same location, just a single room, not a room and parlor. And people pay as high as 3 million per annum for it. Let me explain why. Nigeria is the best place to make money as far as real estate is concerned. And the reason for that basically is that government's inability to advise or to provide or to solve the problem of housing is an opportunity. Why do you think developers are making billions? If you look at all these real estate developers that are selling houses, these guys are making fortune. See, as at December 2025, I'm already disclosing some of the videos of what I wanted to do, but it's fine. Let's have this important. As at December 25, it was recorded that people gave birth to 7.5 million babies in Lagos alone. 7.5 million babies. These children will grow up. They will look for opportunities. They will need accommodation. So beyond the negativities, in the negative, us train our eyes to see the opportunities that we need to understand. These are some of the things that we need to, advantages we need to capitalize on. So staying away is not the problem, but maximizing needs. Because you see, it has been recorded that in Unilag, let me use University of Lagos, as at October 2025, the entire population of the University of Lagos, October 2025, they were around 63,000. 63,000 is the population of the entire faculty of Unilag. This excludes the faculty of medicine, radiography, and other faculties. Just the main campus where we have law, engineering, and the likes. And we have 63,000. The population is 63,000. How many bed space has Unilag been able to provide? Now, Unilag, in combination of some private people, private investors who decided to build state-of-the-art hostel, they were able to provide 8,000 bed spaces. And that is why people will pay 3 million for a room self, a studio apartment. So there are areas where real estate investment makes sense. There are areas whereby you put in your investments, and in the shortest time you realize your investment, and you can even reinvest in other locations. So there are areas in Lagos. Now, I'm not saying other locations are not. I'm very, very conversant with these areas because this is where most of my research, my work, most of my teams work. So we can give you a verifiable statistical data of this is the obvious reality of what is going on in this area. This is it. It's only in Lagos, Lagos, Nigeria, that you will buy a property for, let's say, 30 million. And in that same year, the property will increase by 150%. How can I explain a scenario whereby there's this project that I personally supervised? We started selling studio for 38. As at completion, we're selling studio for 55 million within the space of just 6 months of construction. So we need to have this conversation so that we can have and understand that the opportunities are here. However, we need to invest strategically. So these are some of the things that we need to talk about. So, and of course, for every investment you want to do, then you must understand the basic formalities and the statistics of the entire environment so that you can have it. So I have questions here which I am going to quickly respond to, basically. And that is why the Chinese are here. That is why the Indians are here. There are some periods that when we come out for aerobics, normal activities on a Saturday, these guys will come together. When you go to ShopRite in Shangote, they are there. When you come to Beechwood Estate, they are there. When you come to Mayfair Gardens, they are there. Lekki Phase 1, these guys are there. So there's an understanding that these people have that we are so, and this is why we don't have to be subjective. There is no nations across the world that does not have their own challenges. But the only issues we're having as a Nigerian basically is leadership. If we can get it right, Nigeria will become one of the best nations in the world because we have the resources, we have the people. But politically, economically, we've not been able to get it right. And this is why some nations, this is what the top nations of the world are facing. If Nigeria becomes industrialized and we have some people in their right position, Nigeria will become the best. In fact, in spite of all these circumstances, the most expensive real estate in Africa is located in Lagos, Banana Island. Although a lot of people have give their own opinion about it being overpriced, but the truth of the matter, people are still buying. Davido is starting his own apartment in Banana Island. So if it's as overpriced, why are the celebrities buying there? The people that have even relocated, they've traveled, but they're still investing back home. That means there's something about. So we need to look beyond, the circumstances. And what we should do basically is that if we can get it right as a nation, Nigeria will become one of the sweetest places to have. In fact, at that point, you will even wish you had more than what you're having at the moment. So we need to give a holistic overview and have more of this intelligent conversation so that we can understand how these things are. It's an opportunity, so we need to take it. So I have some questions here. So the question basically, okay, this person actually bought he's making an inquiry concerning the project, the cocoa project. And the question is, hi, Adejari, I hope the Fulanis have not taken over our cocoa farm. Very, very interesting. No, they have not, and they will definitely not. One of the things we've done basically is that, as a result of the rising um tension, because it's indeed a tension. I must admit that, despite the fact that a lot of people say, "Ah, there's some things you should not say online," because there's nothing to hide. There's If something is happening, we should admit something is happening. The most important thing is that preventive measures or ways that we can maximize or minimize that situation so that it don't affect us. Yes. The project is located in Ogun State, and Ogun State, apart from Lagos, okay, is one of the most secured location presently. I've been to Ogun State twice this week, this particular week, and I would say basically that kudos to the governor in the person of Prince Dakwa Abiodun. Kudos to him. There are checkpoints in Ogun State. There are checkpoints. There are security checkpoints. There are security operative, and I think Ogun State and Lagos State government, at least to an extent, they should be commended, because if we don't have these strategic plannings and these things set in place, I would have said I would have been seeing reported cases of kidnappings and some other things, but to an extent. So Ogun State is very secured, and apart from that, we also have our own security outfit, because we know that a lot of people have put a lot of money. The money is not easy to come by, so not ask you to put your money in the things that we have not done our own personal due diligence, and also to find out that we have not put some adequate security that can protect. So we have local securities, we have vigilantes there, and of course there are residents there. Most of our workers reside in that farm, so there is no security threat in that area, and I can assure you that nothing will happen to your investment. Okay, this person is talking about an investment in okay, this is concerning the coastal road. You mentioned in one of your videos that there's a possibility of extending the coastal road straight back to 300 square meter. Yes, there is a possibility, although it has not been officially announced. Yes, I mentioned that, and that was why I said basically, I really don't know. Anytime I'm online, people still keep taking it back, to the coastal road. Of course, it's good. Let us have this conversation. Yes, there might be a possibility of the extension of that setback from 150 to 300. So, but what I've told some of my investors I care to listen basically is that let them finish their road. A lot of people have been saying, "Hey, buy this commercial property close to the coastal." In fact, a lot of people have reached out that, "Hey, you can help us do our own diligence. I want to buy land in the coastal road." In fact, there was an investor that reached out to me, and she said she wants to buy a land that she can build more. And I told her wholeheartedly, I said, "Madam, I appreciate the fact that you are interested in the coastal road, but you see, this present administration are very, very unpredictable. And if a whole nice landmark beach resort can go, nothing is safe." That was the thing I told her. And she said, "But they've done 150 setback." I said, "Yes, it's 150 setback, as in realistically, but the tendency that they will extend that setback is very high, although it has not become official, just as the 150 setback." So one of the things I told her basically is that leave the coastal road investment until it is completed. Though they said that the coastal road will be completed, what I can tell you basically, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. You see that Lagos section of that coastal road from VI down to the boundary of Lagos and Ogun State, or Ogun State and Ondo State, I can categorically tell you that before the first expiration of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, before his tenure expired, they will complete that session. So after they complete that, once they have done their personal gazetting, they've put their own signboard, they indicate. Because you see, a lot of people in fact, some people said they have government allocation along the along the coastal road. Well, there are some things I would definitely don't want to unravel online, but there was a woman that wanted to buy a property in that coastal road. She paid for her service. It's not free, because when I talk about, so we engaged our people, and some of the C of O's and government allocations that majority of the coastal road developers are parading are not C of O's, and they are not government allocations. Most of them are demand notice, and a lot of people are asking what is demand notice. I can't definitely explain demand notice because of my time, but I will do an episode where I'll explain titles that are C of O, how to verify a C of O, I have to verify government allocation, I have to verify the demand notice. Demand notice is not a bad title, but it's still a 50-50 chance. Okay. And because of the fact that the government is not predictable, especially as far as the coastal road is concerned, my advice is, I said this last year, and I'm going to say it again. Let them finish their construction before you start taking your own part of the coastal road. I hope I've been able to respond to that. Okay, so there's also another question. God help me, our time is limited, but I'll try as much as I can to respond to it. Okay, this person is saying, I bought a project in Abramadesanya. We are deviating from that. Well, it's part of it anyway. So the person said, I bought a project in the Abramadesanya axis, and I was given a file number to confirm the building approval. Okay. Okay. Let me just quickly explain this. First of all, as a real estate practitioner based in Lagos here, I would say that some important information that are needed for me to guide your investment, that you will not make mistake. Like for instance, if you say, okay, fine, Adejay, I want to buy a property somewhere. I want you to be in charge. My team, okay, will do their job, ensure the safety before you make that investment. So me knowing all this does not make it my own area of specialization. So concerning this building approval, what I can see basically is that building approval varies, and the variability is now based on conditions that is outlined for that construction. Now, if I should talk about condition, there's a project that I'm presently monitoring on the on the Lagos mainland, Brooks Ends. This one, I've made videos about that, and of course there will be more videos I'll be making on that. Now, because of the topography, okay, of that area is heavily waterlogged. So for that approval to be granted, there were some adjustments that the Lagos State government made and the developer signed before the approval was given. Now, the agreement basically was that they will not tamper with the government existing drainage. However, they can modify it in order to address the area of flooding. So in that situation, because of the fact that the project that is being done there has made it compulsory for government to make some alterations to their master plan in that area. And in situations like this, it doesn't happen all the time. And that is why you need to understand that even when a building approval has been given, there is still a necessity for government agencies to ascertain that whosoever is building in conformity to what Lagos State government gives. And this is why there is always inspection at every stages of construction. So these are some of the things you need to know. And these are one of the major reasons why I usually tell people that if you're buying, as far as Lagos is concerned, you cannot afford to be sentimental if you're buying properties. And that is why the person that is handling your purchase is very important. But what I now realize, the reason why I stopped doing due diligence of some people, basically, it paid me. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It paid me very well. Now, when some people want to buy property, they will not call me. They will go and get another agent. When they get into trouble, they will now remember that there's one Adejare here. I've always been making videos telling people, hey, these are some of the things you should look out for. These are some of the, you will not enter trouble finish. You now realize, in fact, there was a scenario, there's this particular person, we've been talking, there are people that I have relationship with for over 5, 6, 7, 8 years that we still talk. They tell me, this is what I'm going through. This is the property. What would you suggest? So to my best knowledge, I can give recommendations on what I think you should do. However, this one I just woke up, I saw an alert of 50,000, and I was like, I even thought that it was a gift. They called me and the person said, oh yeah, start going now to Ikola. If you know where they call Ikola, Ikola is the boundary between Alagbado and Ogun State. That place is very far. Now, the first thing basically is that if I'm to fuel my car to and fro, 50,000 cannot take me to and fro with the present economic reality. So I was very, very annoyed. And I told this man, I said, Oga, send me your account number, let me refund your money. I will never, ever. When you were buying, it was a distress sale, you did not tell me, you bought finish. Sure, it's me that I should now go and tell you that the land you bought has issues. It's me that they should use an assassin to be looking for up and down. I will not do that. So I just told the man, Alaye, send your money, let me return. I cannot go. But what I'm trying to say, in essence, basically, is that when you have an opportunity to work with somebody with field experience, somebody with industry expertise, don't leave that person. See, a lot of people will they now turn this area of due diligence to my area of specialty. Now, property I dey sell now. You go and buy from somebody else, just tell me to be checking if it's good. If it's not good, I'll tell you. I'll not tell you it's not good. So these are some of the things that we need to do. So I am not a surveyor, but there's some basic information that I know that can help you from making non-legal. And that is why if you are buying properties, Lagos is not a state where you can't afford to buy from anybody. The industry is highly centralized. The industry is highly is interest driven. So sometimes if it does not favor the interest of the seller or the buyer, there are some things that's not resolved. And that is why you need an independent person. Me, I've seen a situation whereby they will tell you they have governor's consent. We'll go and check and find out the governor's consent does not. How many gazettes that we have checked that is not even gazette? If I should start giving, analysis of some of these things we have experienced, today's episode will not be enough to talk about it. But in other words, what I'm trying to basically is that even if you're not interested in some of the properties we are buying, but there's something you want us to do, and you want us to be involved in that purchase, we'll do it for you. But if you want to do it to somebody else, which we don't object, there's a fee we will pay. If you are okay, that you're okay to pay my surveyor, you're okay to pay my team, we do it for you. It's not mandatory. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're doing it through us, it's easier, it's safer. So it's not a case of medicine after editing. So I still have a lot of questions. So by the special grace of God, tomorrow we're going to be having this conversation. And this time around, I'm going to be talking about 3 investment errors that diaspora make when they're buying real estate. I'm going to be, and the reason why I'm going to be doing this particular episode, okay, is due to the fact that there are some things that happen, and I find it extremely difficult that people are still making that same mistake. These are mistakes that should not have been making, but because you see, a lot of people are being advised wrongly. In this Lagos, we be say, someone gave me a survey, okay? It was a property I wanted to check for one of my relatives. And I said, this survey is not a registered survey. He said, what do I mean? That is a registered survey. I said, I've been doing real estate now. It's not a matter of 7-8 years. I said, when I see a registered survey, I know. And, the whole conversation now got to a point that I just had to tell the woman that, see, I have seen some skirmishes, some flashes of problem, though it is not obvious at the onset. But I told the woman that, see, as we continue to proceed, some things will begin to, unveil himself as time goes on. And whether the person went ahead with the purchase or something, it's left to them. But I just say, so one of the reasons we're going to have this conversation, 3 important things you must not ignore. 3 important things you must know, whether you are a diasporan or a Nigerian investor, because you see, there are a lot of manipulations that we have uncovered, and sometimes even me as a person, when I started out recently, if I should tell you some investment that we you will buy land, you want to go back to your land, the money that will use cutlass and chase you. In fact, how many do we want to say? But we are enlightened now, we are well informed, we have the best tools now, and that definitely cannot happen. So these are some of the things that we need to look out for. So thank you very much. This is where I'm going to draw the curtain. Like I said, I did not want this video to be unnecessarily long, and I think I've done 1 hour 4 minutes of talking and responding to you. So please do well to subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be dropping some property updates. Let me know if you're interested. In case there are some that I may not have advertised, because the truth of the matter is the Lagos real estate is large. I can't be possibly everywhere. Perhaps you have seen this on timeline. It's something you need more further, inquiry, further information. Be rest assured that I'm willing to work with you as long as you're willing to work with me. Thank you very much for this. I want to appreciate Ms. Jumi, Mr. Mr. Brown. Thank you very much for joining. Then I also have Mr. Motolani. Okay, yeah, it's been a while, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I don't know your time zone over there. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you very much for everybody. See you by the special grace of God. So tomorrow's episode is going to be very, very insightful. I'm going to be talking about 3 important things you should know about the Lagos real estate market. And we're going to be talking about property durability. Now, before I call it a wrap, I made a video a few weeks ago, or is it a few months ago, and I talked about understanding demand when you are buying real estate. And I gave an instance that 1 bedroom in a choice location may be way, way, way more valuable. Now, when we talk about value, there are a lot of factors that determines value. Value is not, I bought it 5 million, it's selling 10 million. The reality basically is that even if they say they are selling, if you don't see somebody to give you that 10 million, it's still not, that price appreciation is not realistic. I think I've done several videos to explain that. However, you can have a 1-bedroom apartment in a choice location, and rental wise and appreciation wise, that 1-bedroom apartment will do well. There are some fully detached duplexes in locations that it will take years to develop. So I'm going to be explaining that tomorrow by the special grace of God. So I'll try as much as I can to stick with the time. I've used an hour, 7 minutes. It's been an insightful conversation. It's been a mind opening. I want to appreciate everybody that were part of this live stream. Thank you very, very much. For those that have reached out and we have responded, and there are still some other things, you are free to reach out to us. So I'm just going to put our WhatsApp contact is on the bio of this channel. You can reach out to us in case you have any inquiries or any other thing that we might have discussed in this timeline that may not be visible or that may not be well understood. You can reach out to us. Thank you very much. See you by tomorrow by God's grace. Tomorrow is going to be very, very high opening. It's going to be interactive, and trust me, you're going to learn a lot. So see you tomorrow by God's grace. Bye for now.